And you're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Council on Thursday, the 10th of July 2025. My name is Councillor Kevin Lagan, and I'm the Chairman of the Council. Members and officers, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table, because as you know, this can affect the live stream and the cameras. And please note the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, remember to turn your microphone on and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. We don't have any fire alarm testing today. However, if a fire alarm does go off, can we exit by one of the two marked fire exits and muster on the green space outside the front of the police station, please? Thank you very much indeed. Tara, may I have apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Apologies been received from Councillor Bound, Councillor Borough-Cook, Councillor Durham, Councillor Lay, Councillor Pratt and Councillor White. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Tara. We move on to agenda item 3, which is minutes of the Statutory Annual Council, which was held on the 15th of May, and is recommended that the minutes of the Statutory Annual Council meeting held on the 15th of May 2025, found on pages 5 to 30 of your agenda papers, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move to have a seconder. Councillor Spenceley, Councillor Nick Spenceley. Thank you. Any member wish to raise any questions, any queries? Councillor Fluker, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just briefly before I do that, can I just thank the High Sheriff for coming to Southminster Hall to hold her summer garden party. Amazing event, and the High Sheriff sends her regards, Chairman, to Maldon District Council, the members, and we look forward to seeing her again. Chairman, I think you put the minutes together, but I just wanted to go to minute 8 on page 34.
Thank you.
Just let me catch up a bit. It's the resolve, Chairman of Council.
So what's your point?
Well, Chairman, my recollection of what happened is, which is corroborated by the tape, is that what we resolved to agree was to proceed with options 3 and 5, but with the inclusion of Hawthorne and land at Stowe Maris. If you look at the appendix and the addendum, it really isn't clear how that comes together. And it doesn't really amend the options formally, so I'm concerned. So that said, Chairman, I ask that for clarity, the words including Hawthorne and land at Stowe Maris are added after the words option 5 in the resolve. Okay. That's pretty much what the tape says.
Thank you. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, for purpose of clarity, the recommendation put forward to members and was accepted was that we conduct highway modelling inclusive of options 3 and 5, but we didn't suggest changing the growth options. That's my recollection.
Yeah, Councillor Stamp. Thank you, Councillor Fittock.
Yeah, I totally agree. It wasn't stated that Hawthorne was going to be included separately, because obviously the dangers would have been highlighted. So I don't agree with what Councillor Fluker said. Thank you. Okay,
well, I think we have that clarified. I believe that through what I've just read here, that the option 5 was included in those sites. So I think that those minutes stand as taken. Members, do we agree those? Yeah. By assent, any disagreement? No, so those are agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'll just raise the point of the spade to have a dig. Unfortunately, due to a family issue, I was unable to attend at Southminster, and my vice chairman was actually absent at the time. So I did send my regards to Jane and apologies, and I'm meeting her on a one-to-one basis later on in the year, after unfortunately she was held up at a previous meeting of which I attended for many hours waiting for her. So I'm sure we'll get together soon. We enjoy each other's company. Thank you. So we move on to agenda item 4, which is the minutes of the 17th of June. It's recommended that the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 17th of June 2025 on pages 31 to 38 are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Thompson. It's okay. Going there. I did see you. Members, any member wish to speak, or do we take those by? Yep. Okay, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask that my name be corrected? On page 31, I'm down as Sarah Dodson, and it should be Sarah Dodsley.
Okay.
Just in case. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate that greatly. We move to agenda item 5, which is declaration of interest, and this is to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they should also be required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. Members, do we have any registrable, any procurement, any interests at all? Tara, there are none. Thank you very much. Agenda item 6, which is public questions. I can confirm that there are none. Agenda item 7, which is Chairman's announcements. I have two. I have the standard suspension of Rule 483, the requirement to stand when addressing the Chair. That's totally optional, however you feel more comfortable. And myself and other members of the Council attended the Heavy Military Vehicles event down on Maldon Promenade a couple of Sundays ago. And the feedback and thanks from that organisation to the council for providing the asset to use was gratefully extended. It was a joyful occasion. People mentioned because it was free, we had an enormous turnout of people, and the crowning glory was when the Avro Lancaster did 3 passes over. One turned around and looked at people, including myself, and felt like a 10-year-old kid again. It was absolutely amazing. Showed the district off in its finest. So well done to everybody concerned with that. We move to agenda item 8, which is the minute book, and this is to consider any recommendations brought forward from committees as detailed on the agenda. And under 8A, the Strategy and Resources Committee on the 12th of June, the recommendations came forward from the Strategy and Resources Committee on the 12th of June, and they are subject to separate reports later on this agenda. They will be tabled at agenda item 17 and agenda item 18. We move to number 9, agenda item 9, which is the meetings of the Council. There was significant numbers of meetings. They are found on page 3 of your agenda paper, members. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to just agree those by assent. Councillor Fluker?
Chairman, can I just refer Council to the meeting of the Strategy and Resources Committee of the 12th of June? Chairman, there's been quite a lot of public interest in the agenda of this meeting, but unfortunately the draft minutes are not published on either mod.gov or on the Council's own website. So it's very difficult. I mean, just to remind members, this item is where you have the opportunity to ask questions in relation to the minutes. So if you don't have the minutes, you can't ask questions. So, Chairman, under the circumstances, can I propose that those minutes, that's held over until our next meeting?
Yep.
It's exceedingly rare, Chairman, for this to happen, and to sort of save time, I actually submitted a fresh service request asking for sight of the minutes, and I've never received anything back.
Okay.
So can I propose that we carry that over?
Yep, I'll second that, and we will do that, members.
Thank
Is
you.
that agreed? Do we agree the minutes with the exception of S&R on the 12th of June? Yep, is that agreed? Yep. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Just turn over my notes. And we move to item number 10, which is statement of the Leader of the Council. Leader, you have 15 minutes to make your statement, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, Chair, officers, the Leader's speech gives us an opportunity to reflect on our progress as a council over the last 12 months. And I think a good summary would be a year of investment, partnership and change. With the changes being implemented by the government, this and the following years will be further challenges and great opportunities for the council. This time last year, I said, I hoped as councillors that we use our strategic and preventative powers to improve prosperity and well-being in our communities. I think when we can reflect on that and say that by working together, we have certainly done that. Last year, we took the opportunity to review the structure of our corporate leadership team, and this concluded with the appointment of Mr. Wilkinson as Chief Executive and Mr. Dodson as the Deputy Chief Executive. This was followed by the retirement after a long term of service of Mr. Holmes. Mr. Wilkins has been with us for nearly 9 months, and he's made a difference both internally and externally, which has changed the dynamics of the organisation. As a continuation of the process, we as members gave him the steer to continue with the process, and through consultation, he has been working with the LGA to undertake a review of our organisational structure. This review will be considered by members on the 7th of August. We need to ensure that the council is the best possible position for the future changes. Over the last 12 months, we've seen significant investment in our community with the installation of a replacement pontoon in Burnham and Crouch, new play equipment supported through UKSBF, and a much improved skateboard park, which has been possible through Section 106 developer contributions. In Maldon, we've seen the replacement play equipment of the Promenade Park, again partly funded by UKSBF, and a new skate park in West Maldon. And soon to start will be a much improved skate park in the Prom. Again, these have been possible through developer contributions. We will also see the completion of a redesigned amphitheatre. Our officers are currently exploring opportunities to increase the use of this, for example, by buskers and local bands to use it over the summer. If you know of a local band or performer who you think could use this opportunity, then please contact officers. The announcement about the changes at Places Ledger have been challenging, to say the least. This will be, in the long term, see benefits of those changes, and we need to ensure that the provider and officers manage the next 18 months effectively. The contract will deliver a range of outreach work across the district, focusing on some harder to reach individuals and encouraging a health and active lifestyle. Ultimately, improvements planned by our contractor will provide both substantial financial benefits to the council and our successors. We need to ensure that the health and financial benefits are realised. I've asked TLT to ensure that a post-implementation review is undertaken, and so that we can establish lessons learned from the process. I also believe that we need a health, well-being and leisure working group should be established, and we should ask officers to bring this forward with the terms of reference in September, and I hope members will support on that particular principle. UKSBF and REP funding, these projects have not been undertaken or possible without the tremendous work of the council officers, who through the administration of the fund have supported projects totaling £831,000 last year. We were also successful in delivering a number of projects through the Rural Prosperity Fund, working with our partners and amounting to £317,000, which has supported 20 organisations across the district. The investment in our community is set to continue with further support across the district. Tonight, subject to members' agreement, the Ware Quality of Life Community Grant Scheme, which will further support some of our communities across the district. The One Maldon District Partnership continues to play a strategic role in helping us bring together representatives across the statutory and voluntary and private sectors. And our Youth Festival, again, which is a fine example of that, will occur on Friday the 15th of August, which I hope members will attend, with over 80 of our partners having things at that particular thing. We can be really proud of the eclectic mix of culture and heritage across the district. However, what has been missing from the council has been our own culture and heritage strategy, which brings together all the elements across the district and opens the doors to potential funding opportunities. The principle behind the culture and heritage strategy was established when we created our new corporate plan, or updated corporate plan, and we just started work on the strategy with the appointment of the culture engine, who will support the development and delivery of the strategy. A crucial element of that development of the strategy will be member involvement, especially in what we want the outcomes, events, and how we work across the district. There will be workshops and briefings with members to ensure that we take the lead in this development. Turning to our financial position, members will be aware that the financial year we are positive position of reporting an 853,000 underspend. This leaves the council with a strong balance sheet from which we can engage the future challenges. In the past week, the government has published its fairer funding report, and we are beginning to establish the impact that may have on the council. From an initial analysis, it appears that it will put Maldon at a disadvantage, with a drop in our funding. We therefore need to be careful and budget realistically so that we can continue to secure the benefits we have delivered to the residents. I'm pleased to say that the council has published the draft pre-audit accounts already, ahead of many other councils, setting out our position at the end of 24-25. Knowing clearly where we are is important in helping us plan our future. I would like to welcome Mr. J to the organisation, and this is the first time we've had a permanent 151 officer for several years. On behalf of members, I would like to thank our finance team for their excellent work in managing the council's finances in such an exemplary manner. Both devolution and local government reorganisation are progressing at pace. The council is involved in both and is actively involved in helping to shape the 5-unitary model. We are cooperating and collaborating with those authorities who are working on the 3 model, and myself and the Chief Exec attended a meeting on Monday. All options, whether they are 3, 4 or 5 unitary councils, will be considered by the government once the Greater Essex proposal is submitted in September. The report that will be presented to full council will consider all these business cases that are being submitted. We will be working with partner authorities to ensure that we are ready once the government makes that decision. Myself and Mr Wilkinson will therefore be working not only with Chelmsford and Brentwood leadership, but also Colchester, Braintree and Tendring. As this work progresses, it will be very important to ensure that all group leaders are involved as this unfolds. Ultimately, the government will decide on what they consider to be the best option or options. These will then be put to public consultation. We must do our best to work together, support our officers in shaping and preparing for major reorganisation. Chairman, whilst the challenges in local government landscape will be challenging, not least in the additional work for us all, but we will continue to strive to deliver for our community over the next municipal year. I am pleased to announce that work is in hand to replace the play equipment at West Maldon Community Centre as a fitting tribute to Flo Shaughnessy, who served the community so well. This project will be presented to Strategy and Resources. We will continue to invest in projects across the district, enhancing the Promenade Park, our assets, exploring opportunities to improve the museum, Hythe, seating area and creating a memorial walk, ensuring that over the next few years we invest in our play equipment and assets. Officers have developed an excellent plan for the prom, and this will enable us to continue our visit and improve our visitor attraction. In the next few days, we will know what the decision of the ICB will be for St Peter's. And at that point, I know that as members, we will be able to commend all those who have supported the fight to retain the medical services. In particular, the Save Maldon Medical Services Group, who were instrumental in making the ICB think again. We all know the challenges we face to the changes from the NPPF and the impact it had on our 5-year housing land supply. We are working with officers to ensure that we are comfortable with our supply number. Our local plan action options are now being modelled and will establish what sites are possible to be included. In the autumn, members will have the opportunity to shape the district with workshops on our design guide and the principles of how we will create a district for the next 15 years. The Council remains concerned that these national imposed targets have been given to us without any regard to our sensitive local environment, nor to the reality of our infrastructure, which has been struggling to keep pace. The news that the A12 widening has been cancelled by government has come at the wrong time in the context of housing numbers in Maldon and across wider Essex. Like other accounts in the East, I'm sure we will continue to lobby the government for better transport, health, education and social infrastructure, not just new homes. Chairman, I would like to thank all members and all officers for the continued hard work, dedication they put into the delivery of our public services over the last year. I know we're all eager for us to build on the positive steps we have taken to allow Maldon District to grow and prosper further over the coming year. That by working together, we can support this approach, enable us to realise our vision and leave the council in a better place for future changes, helping us realise the fantastic opportunity for the district and all of those who are lucky enough to live, work or visit here and call their place their home. Thank you, members.
Leader, thank you very much indeed for the speech. The leaders of the opposition now have a right to reply, and according with procedural 112, the time again is limited to 15 minutes, and as previous protocols, we'll give each leader a 5-minute window to be able to do that. So first I call upon Councillor Stilts to do your response, please, Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Leader, for your speech. We, the DSG Group, look forward to the review of the organisation and the Chief Exec's vision and future smart ways of working. But we do hope this is to improve the services offered by this council and not just a cost-cutting exercise, as we will need people to see this council through the next stages of reorganisation. We are pleased to see all the investment in not just the prom park, but also in other parts of our district. We do hope more can be done for the parts of the district which are often forgotten. As an opposition group, we have been dismayed at the mess in the new leisure centre contract has caused with the closure of the sports hall. We would like reassurance that all groups have now been accommodated, and their concerns are being listened to and addressed. We would also like to thank the hard-working officers in the delivery of the UK Prosperity Fund and all other grants funding for the community. We are looking forward to seeing the culture and heritage strategy for our district, and we would support a working group. As a group, we would like to congratulate the Section 151 officer on his appointment, and as well as him and the past officer for their hard work bringing the council's draft accounts together early for auditing. This group look forward to getting all the information in a timely manner on the LGR, as we are now, in your speech, Leader, understand we are looking at 3 and 5 unitary models. We hope that all the evidence for these models come forward for this council to form a beneficial outcome for the residents of this district. We, like everyone else, wait for the government's decision on our fate. We look forward to the new challenges and working with other groups to not only shape the future for the years to come, but bring forward long-awaited projects and to make sure that our housing needs are met for everyone in our district for the future. We also hope that our new LDP has infrastructure, schools, doctors, transports and connectivity at the forefront, as it's not missed. Our district cannot carry on without the addressing of these needs of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Stilts. I call upon Councillor Morgan, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I join in thanking the leader for his speech. I also particularly join in his commendation of the CEO, Mr. Wilkinson. It's no secret that the Conservative group was not a fan of the appointment of the CEO, but I have to say that his Geordie charm and humour and his toon mug have won us all over, and I commend him for his efforts and look forward to the fruits of his labours coming forward in the reorganisation. I also would like to welcome Mr. Jay to his post and would like to extend from the Conservative group our appreciation to all the officers for all the hard work they have done over the last year, and look forward to working with them going forward. In the leader's State of the Nation speech, I'm very glad that he avoided the sort of vainglorious that his opposite number on the other side of the Atlantic might have taken on in view of the way that he addressed what has happened, and that he made it clear that the achievements that have been made over this year have been done with all four groups of the council, and indeed the non-aligned, in playing their part in helping to move the district forward and to develop the various projects. One area perhaps which isn't quite so consensual, obviously, is local government reorganisation, as perhaps recent experience has shown. But I am encouraged that the leader seems to be not tying his or lashing us to one particular point of view, and that all groups or all possibilities are going to be considered equally. And I would commend him to continue in that vein. The leader mentioned we are obviously going on to talk about local government reorganisation, so we're not going to make any further comment on it, other than to pick up on the leader's mention of the fact that the A12 road widening has been cancelled. And I think that in particular, with respect to our respective wards, and indeed the district and indeed the county in general, that is going to have significant implications. The like of which perhaps we haven't quite understood. There is an old Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. And I think that could apply now, but I'm sure that if we all work together in a spirit of consensus and with a view to looking and putting our residents' interests forward, we will have a good municipal year ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Driver, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members, officers. Thank you, Leader, for your speech. The Leader began by saying this is a moment to reflect on our progress as a council, and I agree. And much of what's been said I would support. This year has seen some modest changes in party positions. As Liberal Democrats, we've grown slightly with the addition of an excellent new member, but our commitment remains the same: to work collaboratively with all parties and independent members to ensure stability at a crucial time in this council's history. This has been our approach since 2023, and it will continue. There is, as the Leader has mentioned, actually much to celebrate. The new pontoon in Burnham was long overdue, but is now there. Investment in play equipment in both Burnham and Maldon is welcome, as are the new skateboard parks at Burnham and West Maldon Community Centre. And we're hopeful the much needed upgrade of the skate park at the Promenade Park will soon follow. A great facility for young people, and perhaps the young at heart too. The repair of the amphitheatre is, as I understand, nearing completion, a longer and more expensive task than expected, and I look forward to seeing its use. I've also had the pleasure this year of attending One Maldon District Partnership meetings. They are a positive example of partnership working, and there is a real appetite for closer collaboration, of which the benefit is clear for the district. The work of the partnership, I think, deserves wider recognition. Across the district, funding from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund has helped to deliver a number of successful projects. Financially, as a council, we are in a stable position, unlike many councils. Improvements since the 23 elections and the strong work of our finance team, now ably led by Mr. Jay, have contributed to this, and we acknowledge the hard work of that team. We must continue to steer carefully through uncertain waters while being bold in our desire to use our reserves wisely to benefit Maldon District residents. But we must also be honest. Challenges remain. Our communications strategy has let us down at times, notably with the leisure contract. A positive story ended up being poorly told, and we must do better. We face pressures from government housing targets and the urgent need for a robust local development plan. Residents expect us to push for sustainable development that delivers real infrastructure and to resist robustly where that isn't the case. The Council has rightly taken a clear stand on St Peter's Hospital. We must keep the pressure on to secure the range of health services needed by our community. For too long, our residents have been shortchanged. And finally, amid all of this, we must resist allowing progress to be undermined by political distractions around local government reforms. Debates will be robust and should be, but residents deserve a council focused on their interests, not on point scoring or, in some cases, artificial division. Going forward, we have many opportunities, and I'm sure if we work together, as we have done, then actually there is great success for this council ahead of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Spot on timing. Thank you. Thank you, members. Leader, you have the right to respond if you wish. You happy with that? I thought you would be, yeah. Thank you very much indeed. And thank everybody for the responses and to the leader for the speech. We move on to agenda item 11, which is questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. I can confirm that there are none. So we move on to agenda item 12, which is the Community Grant Fund, which is found on pages 39 to 58. And members, an addendum and amended versions of appendices 1 and 2 were circulated yesterday, which was Wednesday. And I'll just finish this and then I'll come. Which can be found on pages 3 to 20 of the supplementary pack. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. I don't exactly know when I should raise this, but I thought I'll just do it before the next agenda item, and I appreciate we've already discussed this. But Councillor Fluker's point about some minutes being missing reminded me that I'd noticed some minutes were missing.
That item's closed now, so we can...
Well, I don't know. There are 3 lots of minutes missing, and I don't know what you do about that.
It's closed. What we'll do is I'll make a ruling that we go back and we'll have a look at what minutes are missing, and we'll accept those minutes as we have been presented to us. Any though that are missing, we'll get them circulated and we'll bring them back for the next meeting. I think that's the easiest way. Thank you, Councillor Stevens. We have leader, I believe you're going to present this report. Are you? Well, that's what it says here.
It's news to me.
Well, breaking news, leader. Would you like to present it? But you can be assisted by Miss Cable, the lead specialist of prosperity.
I will start us off and then I'll hand over to Ms. Cable.
Good. Yep.
One of the complications of UK SPF funding and the Rural Prosperity Funds was the fact that they were limited in terms of their delivery to a year. And one of the things that then prevented was organisations being able to bid for that money. We therefore looked at, and we talked about introducing earlier in the year, the Community Grant Fund, and creating a match in terms of the amount of money that we get from UK SPF. So this is the report that's now comes before you, which gives you the opportunity for local groups, organisations to bid for this money, but without the time constraints that they would have with UK SPF, which gives more flexibility. When this was reported to you or briefed with members a few weeks ago, and since that time, and that's why we've had the updates and the addendums, we've updated and changed the report and the context and how this works. So I'll hand over to Ms. Cable now, who can present us with the detail.
Ms. Cable.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader, and good evening, members.
Good evening.
First slide, please, Tara, or next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. As the leader said, just to go over the time frame so far, on the 3rd of April at Council, members approved the proposed projects for delivery and the 100% match funding to the UK SPF allocation. Since that time, officers have reviewed existing grant funds to develop a complementary scheme for delivery. This new grant fund focuses on delivering against 4 of the 5 outward-facing priorities within the Council's Corporate Plan 2025 to 2028. And as the addendum also reflects members' feedback, the proposed scheme is called the Where Quality of Life Matters Grant Fund. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. Aligning the fund to the corporate plan priorities will enable applicants to come forward with projects that underpin the Where Quality of Life Matters ethos, empowering residents and businesses to deliver projects that improve the quality of life of residents and strengthen the local economy. It's been designed to complement rather than duplicate the delivery of the UK SPF and Rural England Prosperity Funds by providing a sustained, locally responsive funding mechanism tailored to support the Council's priorities. And there's a brief synopsis there under each priority of the types of projects to sort of stimulate appetite in what could come forward from applicants. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. The application window will operate in 2 phases. I'm sorry that's a little bit small. I appreciate it might be quite difficult, but it does confirm what's in the addendum paper. Phase 1 will open from the 1st of September to the 30th of November for town and parish councils, registered voluntary community or charitable organisations and registered social enterprises only. These applications will be reviewed in December and applicants notified of the outcome. Phase 2 will operate from January 2026 for education institutions and micro-sized private businesses. So micro-sized businesses are referred to as 0 to 9 employees. So that does include sole traders. But that will be subject to residual funds being available from Phase 1. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. A broad range of applicant types have been proposed. However, for the purpose of good grant assurance, applicants must have a legal constitution. Project-specific delivery costs, capital improvements and activities can be supported with the funding, being for either capital or revenue, and a definition of which is provided to participants in the grant guidance. All applications will be submitted via an online form. Obviously, other formats will be available for accessibility purposes, and this form will act as our one front door for grants managed by the Strategy, Partnerships and Communications team. This will provide a streamlined single point of access and support for applicants from our newly appointed Community Grants Officer who started this week. Further information for applicants is available in the amended Appendix 1, which will be made available to the public. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. A tiered approach is being taken to grant values, with small grants up to £1,000, medium grants between £1,001 to £5,000, and large grants between £5,001 and £10,000. The tiering enables small initiatives to be supported that may fall outside the scope or duration of larger time-limited national programmes. The required supporting documentation will vary by tier, with larger grants necessitating more comprehensive evidence, for example, multiple quotes and financial statements. Successful applicants will be required to sign a grant agreement, provide progress reports and a final evaluation, including evidence of expenditure and project outcomes. This robust monitoring ensures accountability and informs future scheme development. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. A robust and transparent assessment process is critical to the scheme's success. This will involve the use of a tiered scoring matrices as detailed in the amended Appendix 2 of the report and corresponds to each grant tier, where small grants will need to achieve a minimum of 50 points, medium grants 75 and large grants 100. With the larger grants, it will demand a more comprehensive detail across all criteria, with specific emphasis on strategic partnership, robust financial planning and long-term sustainability. There is also an element of the partnership and collaboration criterion, which has been specifically adapted for private business. Next slide, please, Tara. Thank you. And this is the final slide. The proposed scoring panel competition is set out in the amended Appendix 2 and adheres to the Council's scheme of financial delegation. The proposed officers also provide the relevant expertise to each priority, experience in grant management and a broad understanding of the needs across the district. The scoring panel will be supported by the newly appointed Community Grants Officer, and letters of support will be sought from the relevant ward member for each application. Once scored, applications will be presented to an assurance panel, which would consist of the leader, the Chairman of Strategy and Resources and the Chief Executive, to provide final ratification of the applications proposed for support by the scoring panel. Small applications of up to £1,000 will be approved by the scoring panel only due to their low-risk nature. However, these will be made known to the assurance panel. Members will be provided with a weekly update on the number of applications received, approved or declined, and the overall scoring achieved by each application. And this information will be broken down to ward level. Thank you, members.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Cable. Very concise and a very powerful presentation. So, members, we actually have one recommendation here, which is found on page 39 of your agenda papers. And the recommendation is that members approve the establishment of the Where Quality of Life Matters grant scheme, as detailed in this report, the accompanying applicant guidance, Appendix 1 as updated, and the tiered scoring matrix, Appendix 2 as updated. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan, seconded. Members, I opened up the channel. Councillor Stamp, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I actually raised a concern about this when it was originally mooted, because I think the question, or it was said it was in principle. We didn't have the detail at that point, and I did say the devil is in the detail, whether other members agree with it or not. I don't agree with this detail. I don't agree that we should be funding businesses. I don't remember that it was part of the, had to link in with the corporate plan. Local businesses, small businesses, it is not our responsibility. Yes, we can support in different forms, but I think this money, that £100,000 of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm always open to be corrected, is coming from taxpayers' money from this district because of an underspend for the budget financial year. My view personally is that it should go back to areas, whether it be Haybridge, Latchington, Steeple, I don't really mind, but anybody who doesn't have enough presets or money or reserves that they can afford to do anything. We've got many smaller villages and hamlets who don't even have a proper play area with disability facilities that they can get the money for. And I thought this would be a good idea to be able to deliver that as a council. Not everybody's got massive housing, which has been delivered, which is Burnham. It's taken me 6 years of hard work to actually try and get the improvements in Burnham, but believe me, it didn't come from funding from this council. It came from funding from Section 106 monies for development to mitigate the housing. So let's not be under any illusion that Maldon District Council has paid for those improvements. And I think I'm going to get a comeback, but that's my understanding. So, and I'd like to raise a point 3.9 of page 40. It says, if approved, this scheme will be integrated into the council's new process for one front door. The grant application is administered by Strategy, Partnership and Communications team, providing a streamlined single point of access and supported for applicants from the Community Grants Officer. I've just been informed, or it's just been said, the Community Grants Officer has already started. We haven't even approved it, as far as I'm concerned yet, because this hasn't gone through, as far as I'm aware, tonight. So I do have concerns. I don't think it should necessarily align with everything of the corporate plan. I don't think we should be subsidising businesses. Nobody's to subsidise my business or our business when COVID didn't get a penny. When you start your own business, you have to have your own business plan. You have to rebus. We do support them in other areas, and I don't think we should do it financially. I think it needs to go to the parish and the town councils and the community groups and people who liaise with the outreach and the partners, which I think Councillor Driver said we work really well with, you know, whether it be CVS, whether it be, I don't know, Dengie Partnership or whoever. But I do not support this as it stands. I don't think we should be chucking 100 grand for businesses or whoever could actually take advantage of it. So, and I'd like a recorded vote, please, on this. Okay. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you.
Councillor Fittock, thank you for that. Thank you very much indeed. Any officer response? More of a statement than you want to. Not necessarily. Go for that. I don't think she. No, I don't think there's anything to respond. I think Councillor Stamp's very concise and clear in what her concerns were. So, if we move upon, the next member who wishes to speak is Councillor Fluker, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think we probably do need an answer in relation to the question that Councillor Stamp said about the appointment of somebody into this role that hasn't even been agreed yet. With regards to businesses, again, Councillor Stamp, I'm sure you inadvertently missed off Southminster when you were talking about funding for. I can, but unfortunately, Chairman, I've lost a certain amount of weight with that argument because I'm afraid I'll have to admit to the fact that my parish council has £750,000 in the bank, and my point is that we've been looking forward to doing certain projects within the villages, and we've been prudently saving for quite some time, and all councils have that opportunity to do that. But Chairman, as far as businesses are concerned, yeah, I think if you look at it in black and white, it is surprising, but there are a lot of businesses out there, Chairman, that aren't registered charities, but they are not-for-profit organisations, but they still fit within the criteria of a business. And I think, Chairman, that so long as the Chief Executive is satisfied that we've got the correct governance in position to ensure that we are dealing with these bids properly, I don't really have a problem with that. You know, I do hope that I've not burnt all my bridges when Southminster puts in an application and the council turns around and says use your own money, but you know, I think we should be open-minded about this and trust the governance that's built into this.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Luca. Mr Wilkinson, just to answer that reassurance.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just to give members reassurance around the governance, we had a long discussion about the format of the approvals process and having that separation of the I can't remember what the first group was called before it comes to the assurance board.
The scoring panel.
Yes, the scoring panel, so that we can almost have that independence for and fairness in governance. So I hope that does reassure members. And I think coming back to Councillor Stamp's point, I think what we want is the ward members to encourage residents and community groups to bid for this. You know, that is, you know, fundamentally where we want to spend the money, but you know, we're trying to support everybody within the community, so let's encourage community groups to bid for this money.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Nick Spenceley, please.
Thank you. I share many of Councillor Stamp's misgivings. When I saw the word community, I didn't really have in mind businesses, and I think they've had a pretty fair crack of the whip with the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and we've seen an impressive list of local businesses that have benefited. However, if I interpret what Ms Cable said correctly, phase one, if charities and parishes crack on and put in some really good bids in phase one, a lot of the resources will be allocated in that phase, and then whatever remains would go to businesses. And you know, I think that's only fair. I do part company when it comes to just carving the money up into small packets, because if we just make it a parish top-up fund, it really departs from the purpose of this, which I think is much more intended to be strategic, and the sums would be very small and you know, wouldn't really affect very much in terms of the scope that we want. So I think, you know, if I look at what Ms Cable said in terms of parishes and charities having first crack at this, the paper as recommended fits the bill, but that may become more clear as people discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Spenceley. Councillor Fittock, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I have a question firstly for Mr Jay in terms of parish council governance. In as much as who is best equipped to decide whether or not the position of the council's reserves is adequate, inadequate, too much or too little? I mean, as I understand it, and I am a chairman of the parish council, we have annual audits conducted on us. And certainly in situations whereby we had excessive reserves a few years back, that point was made, and we put in a corrective action plan. So I'd just like his view on it, whether it should be left to the parish councils and the residents to debate this matter, or for officers or members of the council to decide that a local authority can afford to do something they've chosen not to do. Thank you. And I'd like to speak after that, Chair, after I've had the response.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Jay. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. It's an interesting challenge and query. The proper regulation relating to reserves held by town and parish councils is not an area professionally that I'm familiar with. I am very familiar with the guidance relating to councils in the sense of local councils such as ourselves. There is no clear guidance arising from any of the professional bodies relating to oversight. It is regarded as being a judgment on the part of the council as advised by the Treasurer based on the understanding locally of risk and potentially opportunity. In the absence of being able to reference back anything specific relating to town and parish councils, my immediate response would be to take a similar approach, which is that the proper level of reserves to be held in any town or parish council must be a function of the local understanding of risk and opportunity locally, in my view. But that's perhaps not a brilliantly well-informed view, other than my understanding around the specifics to local government.
Thank you, Mr. Jay. I mean, that's pretty much how I would conclude things. It's not for us to decide or for officers to decide whether or not somebody can or cannot afford it based upon the amount of reserves that they're holding. But moving forward, I think where we've got this issue is, what is it we're funding? I mean, going back to when this originally started, the idea was that we'd match fund the UK SPF to find a way to utilise reserves that seem to be in excess of need for community benefit. Now, I've looked at the UK SPF guidance on this matter, and yes, it does split it between various arms, shall we say, one of which might be to promote the local economy, but the huge proportion of it is very much geared towards improving sense of pride of place within communities, and, if you like, trying to bring communities back up to speed where they may have got left behind. So now we move into what we've ended up with. It's a fantastic report by Ms. Cable, based upon whatever she was prompted to write. And really what this report amounts to, or what the Statutory amounts to, is support of the corporate plan. Well, that wasn't what was proposed originally for members. It's not my understanding of the situation. And I don't really think that, well, I've looked at other authorities to see what they do with their community grant funds. I think that's the fairest way to assess things. And I just got fed up at 6. And in none of the 6 did it have any mention of private sector companies being part of the community fund. So I would say there are probably some out there might be, but I just got fed up at 6. So really we've got this quandary. We've got a fund that we want to use for the benefit of the community. And now we've got this complicated phasing system, which has had to be brought in case by Ms. Cable, based upon the remit that she's got to produce a strategy that supports the corporate plan, not community projects. So I don't think we should be supporting the business in this fund. If we want a fund to support business growth and investment in the economy and all the stuff that goes with it in our corporate plan, that's another matter. But as a community fund, it should be for the community. And generally speaking, all of the funds that I've looked at say the same thing. And this, I'll just quote Chelmsford, it's the most local one. Basically, it says the community fund scheme is available to voluntary and community organisations who work for the benefit of Chelmsford residents. It has 3 parts, each have different eligibility criteria. So, again, it's not geared towards supporting the private sector. It's got no mention of the corporate plan and the priorities of the corporate plan. And I don't really see that serves a useful purpose in this funding mechanism personally. So then we get on to the matrix. The matrix is a very, very good matrix. I'm not entirely sure what the results would be, because unless we've got a model of what the outcome would be in terms of scoring, it's very difficult. I suspect it's something they've used in the UK SPF scoring and it's proven successful. But community ventures might prove very difficult. And we did find out with the leisure contract, the unforeseen circumstances that can arise when an algorithm is such that we don't fully understand the outcome of it, because in summary, in that scheme, the affordability cap precluded the most, if you like, financially beneficial bidder. But that's another. So the problem is with these algorithms, we don't know what the outcome is until we've actually seen what the results are. So then we move on to who should make the decision.
Yeah, just time.
Okay.
Please,
personally, I don't think that it should be for officers on their own to decide what is most beneficial to the district and the residents. The people that know that are the parish councils and the district councillors. So therefore, I would be suggesting or proposing later on, if it moves that this should be opened up to the wider member audience, whether that be in committee or working group. I also have concerns about why we need a contingency fund when we're handing out grants. It just seems to me money put to one side for a purpose that we don't really understand what it will be in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Fittick. Councillor Morgan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. At the risk of encountering low-flying porcelains, I find myself in agreement with Councillor Fluker. I don't understand this sort of prejudice against private enterprises being involved in this situation. The fact is there is a rubric or a criteria that is going to be set, and if a private enterprise comes up with something that's going to be of real benefit to the community, I don't see why they should be told they can't make an application simply because they're a private enterprise. There is no monopoly on good ideas in this situation, and if people are able to come forward with a good idea, I think they should be encouraged to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Paula Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask Ms Cable if we could have the slide back up where you look at the amounts that are allocated, that, you know, up to the small grant, can I just have a look at that, please?
Tara, if you wouldn't mind putting slide number, is it the financial values, Councillor Spencer?
Yes.
Slide number 6 back on the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think there was one. Now, I'm not sure it was this slide. It may have been a previous one. Actually, there it is. Stop there, please. Appendix 1, that one. Yes. So this is what worries me. Up to £1,000 for smaller localised initiatives. Is that a restriction on any parish council only getting up to £1,000? Because if it is, well, it looks like that, because it says for smaller localised initiatives, and I'm sorry, but parish councils are local. So that to me doesn't look, and actually I can see a scenario where we go through phase 1 and we haven't actually handed that much out, and then some of the private businesses that are being suggested here will come up with things which look on paper like they're for the wider community more than the parishes. And I do think that we have to be mindful. I don't want to raise this spectre yet again because it's coming up later, of local government reorganisation. And actually what will be left behind will be our parish councils on the ground, and we will be further removed at this level, whether we like it or not, whatever happens. So, you know, I have got some concern that we make it explicit that doesn't restrict parish councils. That really does need to be done, because, you know, the devil is in the detail. Going back to the leisure contract, we all know about the devil being in the detail. So I think that's really important. The other thing is that I am not actually in favour of private business being included, because I think, for me, this should be, as per the Chelmsford brief read out, I think that should be more where we're looking to go with this. And I also do agree that it would be good for a larger group of members to have oversight at the end, whether that's via a working group from S&R with authority from this council to look at that and sign off, or S&R itself, because the problem is, we all know now, and I'm sorry to say it, but it has come from a little bit of bitter experience in recent months. I want to see the detail before I say I think something's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Spenceley. We move on to Councillor Siddle, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think some of this is because it was based on UK SPF. And if you look back at the UK SPF funding, then when it came to projects, anything below 20,000 was decided by officers. Members weren't consulted at all. And anything over 20,000, it was just the leader and the chair of strategy and resources who was involved in that decision. So we're actually, you know, I know it's allocating less money, and it's match funding, as it were. But in terms of that, what we're doing is actually more involvement with members than we did previously with UK ESP and our Rural Prosperity Fund. The funding for this was not about the underspend, because we didn't know the underspend when we decided to do this back in February time. So that's when we decided to approach this thing, and that's when we decided that we would need a community grants officer, because before we used the Rural Council of Essex, and we're saving £30,000 by having our own internal grants officer rather than using the previous process, which cost us more money. Yeah, I can see the view in terms of businesses and in terms of using it. And again, what I think that where that comes from and the initial ideas was around that, again, reflecting the same process as UK SPF. We have changed it so that we get the communities to bid for the money first. And we should all, as members, encourage our communities, parish councils, community group, whoever it is, to bid for this money. In terms of the small grants, or that 1,000, it's not to do with the size of the organisation. It's just to do with, it's a small grant for a bench or 2 benches or 3 benches or whatever. So the 1,000 is not about the size of the organisation, it's the size of the bid. So parish and town councils and community groups can bid up to £10,000. Yeah, there's no limit in terms of those particular bids, which is the crucial thing. I have asked, we have talked about the contingency, and I have asked that officers do not remove the contingency. So there is no more contingency. So it's 260,000, I think, or something like that. So there's 260 now pot for the communities to bid for, and that's open to everybody to bid for in terms of that. I think we've never done this as a council. I know Councillor Fluker has mentioned this in the past, that we should do these sort of things and use some of our reserves, and that's where the idea came from, and to give more opportunity, more possibilities for wider groups. I'm giving Councillor Fluker credit for this. More opportunity for people and community groups to bid for this money. Originally, the idea was to give each councillor £1,500, which I just went, no, well, that's really crazy. Because it will go absolutely nowhere. So this gives us an opportunity to work with our villages, work with our parishes, work with our towns to ensure that we encourage them, like Little Totton Parish Council, to come forward with some bids for these grants to enable benefit in the whole of the district. That's what it's about. And that's what we've got to do, I think.
Thank you. Just comment on that. Good luck getting 3 benches for £1,000.
Well, you know.
Councillor Driver next, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm struggling a little bit because my understanding was that we wanted to provide a sum of money that the district as a whole would have an opportunity to bid for in order to develop a range of projects. That was our starting point, it seemed to me. And Ms. Cable and with others has tried to come up with an open, transparent process for enabling that to happen. That's how I see it. I don't see it as something that is blocking parish or town councillors from bidding. In fact, actually, I think we have a responsibility to get behind our town and parish councils and make sure they do put bids in if they're not, because I don't think there is any restriction to that. And if all our towns and parishes put bids in, then that's where all the money will go, or should go. If they don't, then it needs to go somewhere. And if there are other good causes, genuinely good causes, then I'm very comfortable about that money going in other directions if it really benefits, in the wider sense, the community. Just to pick up the point about that was made about how much money town or parish councils have in this process. We're all in such different places, for those of us who are on town and parish councils, with different responsibilities. So some have a village green to look after, some have a village hall to look after. Maldon Town has 2 Grade 1 listed buildings to look after, plus other buildings. Burnham will have other buildings it has to look after. So we're in different positions, and actually the bids will come in different ways probably as a consequence of that. But there is a framework within which actually we can put those bids in. So I'm actually quite relaxed with this process. I don't think that we can have 260,000 just disappearing out of the organisation without a framework within which that is steered, as it were, or there is some oversight and governance relating to that. Seems to me what we've got is a governance process that seems open and transparent, and that members will have sight of that. As I understand it, on a weekly basis, we would be informed about what bids are coming in to each ward member, so you can see whether actually there are bids coming in from your ward, and if there aren't, then actually it's opportunity to challenge and say, if you know of a project that really could do with some funding, for you to encourage them to put a bid in, seems to me. If you see something coming in and you don't, and you know that it might not be all it should be, it's a great project, but not a great bid. As I understand it, there would be support in order to enable, smaller projects to build up or to put in a sufficiently robust bid so that actually they might be successful. So personally, I'm quite relaxed about this. I think it's open, it's transparent. A lot of the money will go, and should go, I agree, should go out into the community, and it should be funding community activities. That is the starter for 10 in terms of this, but I will be voting for this because I think this is a reasonable, well, more than reasonable, I think it's an open and transparent scheme which will work. Thank you.
The Chief Executive wants to come in for a moment, so please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just to hopefully add a bit of clarity or reassurance to members. I think what we're bringing here is as Councillor Driver says, a framework and a governance process that we're asking members to agree to sign up to, and that's what we want members to agree to. That provides the criteria, for the scoring mechanism. If members agree those principles, then officers can be consistent in how they score grant bids that come in, and it's to try and make the process as efficient as possible. The scoring team will apply that criteria, and then, as we mentioned earlier to Councillor Fluker, you've got that added reassurance of the assurance board almost marking that homework to make sure it's fair. So it's to help members understand that there's a fair process being applied to allocate this grant funding, and to save members having to come together and look at every individual. So there's an element of trust in officers to apply this in the right way, if the framework and the criteria is right. And I think that's what we're asking members to agree, the whole process, rather than members having to do with essentially a lot of work that officers can get on with.
Thank
you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Councillor Bassinger, please.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank Ms Cable for the report. I think she's done a fantastic job. I do struggle with this, though, I must admit, because my understanding from the very beginning that this was a community grant, and that suggested to me that it was for the parishes and town councils primarily. I certainly don't accept the fact that businesses should be involved in this. I also don't think it should be match funded by town councils or parishes, so I do think their reserves shouldn't be included in any form in the scoring. For me, this was a very simple concept when it first started. It was a community fund, and in my understanding of that, it was a standalone, a brand new thing. So I do understand we have to have a structure. Obviously we do. We can't have money just disappearing. But I don't really understand why it's become quite so complicated, and that's not a criticism of anything or any of the work that's been done to try and get this through. I understand that we need to have a structure and this needs to be transparent. But what is really important is that this goes to the communities. This is a standalone fund. It's not to do with the corporate plan or anything else. This is basically for the little man to get a little back, as far as I'm concerned. So it's for our residents. And I think, to be honest, that in a way, although again, it's nothing to do about trust of officers, but I do think ward members, or at least one member from each part of the district, so 4, let's say, from north, south, east, west, is on a board that either signs this off or is in some way party to the decision making. So, as I say, I understand, and I think this is a good thing. I just struggle with what it's become, where it should have been something very simple has now become something very complicated to do something very simple, if that makes sense. So I'll park it there.
Thank you very much. So those members who have asked to speak, again, I'll give you the floor for a short session. We'll start with Councillor Fluker, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. Just as a point of clarity, obviously Southminster Parish Council is subject to audit, like all parish councils are. Our auditors are more than happy with the reserves that we hold because we're using that £750,000 to prime a grant from Sport England and a lottery fund to build a new community hub and sports pavilion, and we hope to break ground, Chairman, in the autumn, and I look forward to seeing you in Southminster, Chairman, when it's opened by the High Sheriff. But you can open it if you want.
We'll wait until the invitation
But
comes
Chairman,
through.
apart from that, Chairman, I can see the way this is set up, and I would propose, Chairman, that you put it to the vote. I think we protect the parishes through this. Businesses come second. What we don't want to do is get to the stage where there may be some money left over and we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll put it to the vote when everybody's spoken. Councillor Stamp next, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think Councillor Fittock was very open and honest when he said the scoring criteria hasn't been tested. I think there are possible, and it isn't what Councillor Bassinger said, it's not lack of trust in officers, which is the Chief Executive alluded to. No member is saying it's the lack of trust in any officers. We are elected to scrutinise, raise questions, as was evidenced from the leisure contract. Whether members vote one way or the other way, that's what they're elected to do. I totally support Councillor Bassinger if he wants to make that as an amendment, that 4 members sit on it from whichever area to actually do finalise the applications as they come through. I think that is far more equal. I'd certainly propose some members if we do that. I'd propose Councillor Spenceley, Councillor Fittock, and so somebody else can do the other 2. If I've got a seconder for that, Councillor Spenceley will second that as an amendment to what is said on this paper, that it wouldn't just be the leader, the chair of S&R and the CEO. I don't think 4 more is going to make much of a difference, and I think it will give an all-rounded view of the applications that come through. And I do feel very strongly, I think it's a shame it's limited at 10 grand for parish and town councils who maybe want to do a project that's bigger. If they've got the paperwork ready and they've gone to a proper professional and can prove they're ready to deliver, but they're just short of funding, I think it's a shame we're restricting such big projects in small areas to 10 grand. Because I know of a few already that would welcome 15 if they could put some forward themselves. Because if we don't match fund or if we don't help them, they're not going to get it. And how is that fair when the Prom Park and Maldon gets the majority of everything in this from taxpayers' money? And I don't agree with Councillor Fluker and Councillor Morgan about businesses. Business can sort themselves out. Leander and her team do so much to promote local businesses as it is, and I think this is being missed. It is a process that has been made complicated, and to me it was very exciting, but as I said at the time, when we vote for things in principle, this is the problems we have when it comes to actually agreeing them in detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Spenceley. Then finally it will be Councillor Dodsley.
I would just like to say that I'd like that guarantee that members will have that weekly update is the first thing. I really want to make sure that we do have that. And the other thing is, I think if we could move it forward with the idea that we extend the assurance panel in the way that Councillor Stamp has suggested, then I would be willing personally to support this. I'll leave that there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dodsley.
Thank you. I just wanted to look at the on the addendum, page 3, point number 3.8. It speaks about ward members being requested to provide a letter of support, and I just wondered if I could ask for some clarity around that. And I suppose I'm thinking of potentially that second phase, and let's say we are, inviting wider organisations to come forward. What if a ward member wasn't in support? Like, how was that process? How will that process work?
Good question. Anybody fancy taking that on?
ideally ward members would be in support of a project in their area, but I understand it could conflict with other potential things that are happening or go against. We've tried to mitigate the types of applications that would come in terms of what's eligible and what's not. The opportunity for the ward member to provide a letter of support would be at the point where the application is at its best it can possibly be, and that would be through, sometimes you get applications through that say, I'd like to do something with £50, and actually it's about working with those applicants to tease out that information to get those outputs and outcomes that will be delivered, and that support can come through the team, through the relevant expertise in that area, and also through the aforementioned community grants officer, who is that hand-holding process, not just for external applicants but also to support the team internally as well with the organisation of the panels, etc. So it would hope that the application at the point of asking the ward member for their support would be satisfactory and of a convincing nature to have, wowed us as a scoring panel, and then to present to you a really well-rounded, well-formed project that we know is at the best possible point it can be.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just bear with us one moment, just checking one point of clarity. Thank you. So, thank you, members, for your patience. So, just looking with the MO. So, if that seconded amendment comes into this, what we'd have to do, we'd have to amend section 3.8. So that says the proposed grant scoring panel composition as set out in Appendix 2 and adheres to Council's scheme of financial delegation to the Lead Specialist Prosperity and Health Integration and Community Manager. The panel will score the submissions using their expertise in relevant council, blah, blah, blah. Once completed, there we go. Yeah, this is it. Once completed, the applications and scoring will be presented to an insurance panel made up of the leader of the council, chairperson of the Strategy and Resources Committee, and the chief executive, and 4 members of the council to be determined. Would that be the cleanest way of doing that? Yeah, would that give members what they would want to add into that addendum? So can I take that amendment as a recommendation? Anybody want to second that, Councillor Stamp? Yeah. So we'll vote upon that recommendation. So members, it has been asked as a recorded vote. So Tara, are you clear on that?
Yes, Chairman, just on the amendment to paragraph 3.8 of the report.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, when will we vote the panel? Because if you want to get it cracking on...
If we vote, we have to vote that first, and then we do that as an amendment. Yep. Okay, so if we do that, so Tara?
Yes, Chairman, I'm just checking, does that make a change to any of the appendices as well, just to that paragraph in the report?
Just the paragraph in the report.
It makes a change to the appendices as well, because the
Okay.
report reflects the detail of the appendices.
Yep. And Appendix 2 will be amended to reflect that change. That's clear. So as long as we get that clear, that 3.8 is changed, the recommendation is changed to Amendment 2 will reflect that requirement. That's what we're voting upon. Right, that's it. Here we go.
Right, members. If you could indicate for, against, or abstain, starting with Councillor Bassinger, please.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
4.
Councillor Burwood.
4.
Councillor Dodsley.
4.
Councillor Driver.
4.
Councillor Fittock.
4.
Councillor Fluker.
4.
Councillor Hayward.
4.
Councillor Hughes.
4.
Councillor Jennings.
He's not here, Tara.
Oh, apologies, sorry. Councillor Lagan.
4, please, Tara.
Thank you. Councillor Leybourne.
4.
Councillor
hear.
Morgan.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
4.
Councillor Neal.
4.
Councillor Siddle.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Siddle Norman.
4.
Councillor Nick Spenceley.
4.
Councillor Paula Spenceley.
4.
Councillor Stamp.
4.
Councillor Stevens.
4.
Councillor Stilts.
4.
Brindle,
4.
Councillor Thompson,
4.
Councillor Whiffin.
4.
Thank you, Chairman. The results of that are 24 for, nobody against, no abstentions. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
And then
Tara.
would you like me to withdraw on my recorded vote for the main motion now? I think members have said
Yeah.
exactly what they wanted to do.
I
at the
think I was
same
just about
time.
to ask that, so thank you.
Whoever seconded it.
As
can-
Councillor Morgan, I think you seconded it.
Thank you, thank
You happy with that, Councillor Morgan? Was it? So, members, we move to the amended recommendation with the addition of the 4 members. Are we all in agreement with that? Agreed. Anybody not in agreement with it? That's unanimous, then, Tara. Thank you very much indeed. Members, thank you so much for that. That's a really important debate. So, appreciate it.
Chairman,
Now we're going to move on.
Sorry,
Hang on,
can
hang
you
on.
just confirm the 4 members, please?
We would like to call that. Just let me say thank you first, because sitting up
Sorry.
here, it's a
Sorry,
real.
sir.
It shows why people are passionate about what they're there for and the detail that they put in. And also, Ms. Cable, thank you so much for the excellent hard work and the speed of which things were pulled together. Now we move along for nominations for those 4 positions. Councillor Stamp, please.
I'd like to nominate two members, Councillor Tony Fitter and Councillor Paula Spenceley, if they would agree, and then I'll leave the others to everybody else.
Okay, those 2 members, would you be second yourselves? Yeah, so that's seconded. Councillor, I know it's Stilts. Councillor Jeanette Stilts. I do like to put the first name first. Thank you, Councillor Wendy Stamp. Councillor Stilts, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor Haywood if she wants to do it.
Councillor Siddle.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Thompson.
So those 2 nominees, are you acceptance of that? Yep. Members with those 4 nominees, are we in agreement for those representing us on the panel? That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Well done. Okay, we move on to agenda item number 13. Sorry, Tara, thanks so much for that. Brilliant as always. Thank you. Public Space Protection Order Consultation Evaluation, which is found on pages 59 to 94. I believe, Miss Green, are you presenting this report?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes,
Thank you.
I am. Oh, good evening, members. The report before you tonight follows a public consultation that was undertaken in April. The purpose of the report tonight is to ask members to consider the renewal of the existing public space protection order. And if members were to agree that renewal, that order would then be valid for 3 years from the 18th of July 2025, when the current one expires. The proposed public space protection order has been informed, as I've mentioned, by this public consultation. The outcomes of the consultation are at Appendix 3, and as you will see, there is very strong support from the public in the renewal of, not only in the renewal of the order, but the extension of the order to another couple of areas. The full details of the proposed order are set out in section 6 of the report. And you will see, members, there is as I said, Appendix 3 sets out fully the details of the public's responses. In section 7, you will see that there is a summary of some of the key themes that have come out from the public consultation. It's one of the most responses we've received for any type of consultation, with over 4,000 comments coming back from the public. So the report is before you, members, to consider. My colleague Dan Cannon, who's been involved in the renewal of the order and the proposals, is here if we do have any questions, and very happy to take those, members.
Thank you, Ms Green. That's very kind. Members, we have 4 recommendations which I'm going to take on bulk before we move to the chamber. And it's recommended that little 1, that members note the outcome of the public consultation as set out in Appendix 3. Little 2, that the Public Spaces Protection Order, PSPO Appendix 1, be renewed for 3 years from the 18th of July 2025. Little 3, that the amended conditions as set out in paragraphs 6.2.1 to 6.2.4 of the report be agreed. And little 4, that the new conditions as set out in paragraphs 6.3.1 to 6.3.2 of the report be agreed. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neil, thank you. Members? Members, with that being the case, would members like to... Councillor Stilts. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's just an observation. The map that shows where the dogs have got to be kept on lead, that will be on display in prominent places in the park. The only reason I ask is I've already had a member of a dog group that I go to who seems to think that the whole of the park is on the lead for all year. And I tried to assure them that it was only certain areas, so that will be on display, that map, won't it?
I think it already is down on the prominent places, isn't it? Because it's just an extension of that order. And Ms Greenwood, would you have to truly change that? Because if we're keeping them on leads consistently in certain areas, those signs would have to be updated.
Yes, Chairman, we are already looking at amendments to the existing signage. We'll also be doing some publicity and we will have officers in the park when it's launched to reassure dog walkers as to the correct areas. And we will have a sort of soft launch of it because there will be new areas, there will be dog walkers that will not be aware. So the first part of our launch will be that education, and then obviously we'll move into enforcement at a later stage. That signage is absolutely critical.
Critical, thank you very much indeed. Good point, Councillor Stilts, thank you very much. So members there, do we agree by assent? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. We move on to agenda item 14, which is the response to government consultation on changes to planning committees. This is found on pages 95 to 102. I call upon Councillor Stamp, the chairperson of the Performance, Governance and Audit Committee Working Group, to please present the report. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. For those of you who know me, know that going to one area planning committee is absolutely awful for me to say. I've fought over numerous years to keep area planning committees, and I think if you've actually Mr Dodson is grinning really tremendously at the moment because he knows that I've been an ardent supporter because I really think it should stay locally, but we have been overtaken by central government, and the PG&A working group met with the actually excellent leadership of Matt Winslow and other officers, and we have put this response together, which we want to give to this committee. So what I'm going to do, members, I'm going to hand over to Mr Winslow, but before I do, I would like to put the recommendation forward, and I would actually ask that you listen to it, because I've got no intention of reading it again afterwards, and then we can go straight to the vote to save time. So the recommendation is, little 2 on page 95, members, that the Council approves the consultation response Appendix A for submission to the Ministry of Housing, Committees and Local Government by the 23rd of July 2025. Do you know, Chairman, that's an excellent date because that's my birthday.
Many happy returns. That's it. Anybody second that? Thank you. Councillor Nick Spenceley seconded that, please. Mr Winslow, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Stamp for that intro. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a bit of a summary, give members a bit of a summary on the scope of the consultation, just so that you can understand the context.
Mr Winslow, just a sec. Sorry, can you? Can't. Just need this. Thank you. Thanks, Mr Winslow.
Just thank you, Chair. Just so that you can understand the context of the consultation questions from the government and the recommended response prepared by the working group. So the scope of this consultation affects the delegation of planning functions that relate to development management, so the processing of planning applications and some planning enforcement, the size and composition of planning committees, and to introduce mandatory training with certification for members of planning committees. It's important to emphasise that if any of those changes that the government are proposing come into effect, there is already the legislation running through Parliament through the Planning and Infrastructure Bill. So should that receive royal assent, what's contained in this consultation will be the enabling powers that bring certain powers for the Secretary of State into effect. They concern, for a little bit of detail, they concern a new power for the Secretary of State to set out which planning functions should be delegated to planning officers for a decision and which should instead go to committee. A new power for the Secretary of State to control the size and composition of planning committees in local planning authorities, and a new requirement for members of planning committees to be trained and certified in key elements of planning. So what I'm going to do is to just take you through those aspects of those in a bit more detail. So in terms of the scheme of delegation, members will know that the Constitution sets out the scheme of delegation at the moment as to which applications can be determined by officers and which applications can go to either the area committees or the district planning committee, and there are obviously relevant terms of reference for that. The government feel that there is currently too many applications being considered across committees across the country that are minor and technical in nature. They want local planning authority committees to have more democratic oversight of the complex and contentious applications, and within the definition of complex and contentious, it's their definition of complex and contentious, which we'll get onto. What it would mean is that the ability to call in applications would end, and the Secretary of State will have the power to publish statutory guidance in supporting local planning authorities in implementing the new national scheme of delegation. In order to do that, the government has devised a two-tier system which groups planning applications or different types of applications into two tiers. So there's Tier A. Tier A are types of applications which must be delegated to officers. No choice of the local planning authority, must be delegated to officers in all cases. And then there is a type, Tier B, which is types of application that must be delegated unless the Chief Planner and Chair of Planning Committee agree it should go to committee based on a new gateway test. And the gateway tests are essentially a series of prompt questions, test questions if you like, as to whether those applications should go to committee itself. Tier B applications, just to give you a bit of overview of what they might be. Applications for planning permission that don't fall in Tier A, so that's the kind of catch-all. The applications that would either be from the local authority as the applicant, the councillor or an officer of the council, which is just what happens now. Section 73 applications, which are the ones which vary planning conditions, and a type which don't apply to this, a local authority, because they relate to minerals, which apply to the county councils at present. Tier A, which is always delegated. Now, these are the things which the government feel are mainly technical and minor in nature. So this is the change, particular change for Maldon District Council. All household development, minor commercial and residential development of up to 9 dwellings, all reserve matters approvals, anything that's non-material amendments, any condition approvals, approval of biodiversity net gain plans, anything that concerns permitted development rights, lawful development certificates, and certificates of appropriate alternative development. Now they're covered in the response, which is in Appendix A, page 99 to 101. The working group has considered questions and proposed answers to questions 1 to 10 in that part of the report. Turning to the size and composition of planning committees, at the moment the local planning authority can decide however many committees it wants and however many members it wants on those committees. And as you know, that we have 3 area committees and a district planning committee. The proposal from the government is that they will mandate it, that you will have a maximum of 11 members in regulations, a maximum of 11, but that the statutory guidance will help ensure that if you wish to have fewer members, you can. It's just it sets the maximum number of members possible. And the working group has considered responses to questions 12 to 14 on page 101 of Appendix A in respects of those. Turning to the requirement that they are proposing to introduce in respects of mandatory training for planning committee members. 2 options are being considered by the government. That is that the government will procure a national certification scheme, which would include an online test which any members of the planning committee will have to pass if they were to serve as a planning committee member, or have a locally based approach where the local planning authority provides its own certification. And question 15 of Appendix A on page 101 is the working group's response to that. Finally, in addition to those kind of changes to the scheme of delegation and make-up of planning committees and the members for those committees, the government are also looking at whether or not they should tighten the key performance indicators for planning authorities. And this is to try to ensure, in the government's view, that local planning authorities, whether that's decisions by officers or decision by committees, are not taking unreasonable decisions, particularly those in relation to those that are won on appeal. At the moment, there is a tolerance which we're monitored on as a local planning authority of keeping. We are currently monitored at 10%, so 10% of all decisions on appeal. If we go over 10%, we could enter a type of process which is a type of special measures, so it could be designated. When you're designated, the most extreme response for the government is that they will remove your decision-making powers, that's officers and members, and planning applicants can apply directly to the planning inspectorate for a decision directly. That has most recently affected Uttlesford, although Uttlesford designation has recently been lifted, but that did apply to them for a while. So the working group considered responses to those questions, again, Appendix A, questions 16 to 17 on page 102. I'm happy, Chairman, to take any questions in respects to those technical responses.
No, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Winslow. That's very helpful. Councillor Stilts, please.
Yeah, just for clarity, Matt, if the government say that the committee can only have a maximum of 11 members, how does that then go if a member can't attend the committee and has to substitute? Because then surely everyone's going to need to be trained.
Mr. Winslow.
So the working group did discuss that scenario, and the working group, I think, felt that actually more than 11 members would need to be trained. As to whether all members would need to be trained, I think that's probably up for debate. The government haven't really emphasised that as yet. I think there was a feeling from the working group that operationally would need to train more than 11 members, not just in case someone was ill, but if there's a conflict of interest that a member couldn't manage. But I think the government's emphasis is that you only have to have up to 11. You have to be quorate, but up to 11. So you don't have to have 11. You could have a smaller planning committee.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just really want to commend the PGA working group and the officers for the work they've done here, which I think is very commendable. It's quite clear, I think, however, that the Deputy Prime Minister has already made her mind up as to what's going to happen here. But I think that this response certainly has our group's support, and I recommend it, and we'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Will any other members wish to speak? Because we've had the Councillor Fittick.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the Councillor Maldon. I mean, I think it's a very, very, very balanced response. Now, when there's an opportunity to reflect stuff that we previously have done, so I would agree with things that make sense. I think
Thank you. It does seem that the decision's been made, doesn't it? We'll listen to you. But so, members, do we agree by assent? Agree by assent, and I second everybody's comments upon the work that the officers and the working group has done. So, thank you very much indeed. We move on to 15, which is any other businesses that the chairperson decides are urgent. There's one urgent business item which I've agreed to be brought forward to in response to the recent council decision to receive an update on devolution and local government reorganisation at every meeting. The update was circulated in the supplementary pack which was sent out yesterday. So this is 15A. So devolution and local government reorganisation update is found on pages 21 to 28 of the supplementary pack. And Mr. Wilkinson, could you just give a brief summary and an update, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. Members, just a brief update from myself, and I will then pass over to Ms Button just to take you through the slides that were circulated recently. So devolution work continues at pace with workshops beginning next week. There is a broader summit on the 16th. This is organised by Essex County Council, and an economic growth session on the 17th, which officers are attending. This work continues to prepare the processes and the target operating model in readiness for day one of the mayoral county combined authority. There is still no feedback from government on the devolution consultation response. Moving on to local government reorganisation, I can advise that after an options appraisal meeting on the 24th of June that Maldon District did not attend, Essex County Council has confirmed they will progress a 3-unitary authority case. I think it's referenced as 3.2 as the model, taking us back to the 16 options from the original Grant Thornton piece of work. This would see Maldon District Council form a large unitary with Tendring, Colchester and Braintree, and would serve a population size of 578,000 people. We understand that Thurrock may also progress a 4-unitary authority case, but time is running out. And more recently this week it has come to light that Rochford are submitting or exploring a 3 or a 4 unitary authority model to be confirmed. The 5 unitary model business case is on track. Content being drafted is on track, and we're confident to see a complete draft by the end of July. The 5 unitary model consultation has kicked off on the 26th of June, and as of last week has seen over 2,600 responses. The devolution and LGR member working group commenced on the 19th of June and will meet again on the 21st of July. Between now and the submission of the proposal on the 26th of September, there will be 2 further working groups and an all-member briefing session in August. An invite to that will be following shortly. This will provide an opportunity for members to see the business case draft and for MDC to provide feedback. At this week's monthly CX Chief Execs Connect, staff received a briefing on devolution and LGR and were given the opportunity to ask themselves questions. Many of these related to jobs, the officers, and what the future holds. I meet with staff on a monthly basis and will continue to update staff on the progress of things. If I may, Chair, if I can hand over to Ms Button, just to take us through the slides.
Yeah, just briefly take us through. Good evening, Ms Button. Thank you.
Thank you. To be honest, much of these slides repeat what Mr Wilkinson has just said. So I will very quickly go through them for you. So in terms of a recap, just for those that aren't so close to it, as a reminder, in terms of for devolution, Greater Essex confirmed us as part of the government's devolution priority programme back in February. So since then, work has really progressed at pace, as the Chief Exec said, to make sure that we've got the policies, the processes, the target operating model is progressing in readiness for day one of the combined authority. So I don't think we should underestimate the amount of work that's going to require between now and then, also up against the work that officers are doing to support the local government reorganisation business cases. The public consultation, as you know, conducted, we submitted our response. And we are still waiting for any comments on that. At the last council, it hasn't changed since then, but at the last council I gave the update that the early sort of indication was that there wasn't anything significant from that consultation that would stop the mayoral combined authority from progressing in the way that it's intended. and that the mayoral election is still due to take place May next year, and you will obviously see mayoral candidates have started to campaign. And then in terms of going back to the workshops that Mr Wilkinson mentioned, there are even more now. They're cropping up by the day, so including ones that Mr Wilkinson's attending and myself and other officers across planning, housing and climate and environment, as well as economic growth and transport. And then, as we said before, there's that general meeting that's taking place so that it gives a huge number of officers to attend to discuss how we are going to prepare for this and make it happen. So that's devolution. And then local government reorganisation. As we said, the work does progress. I think there'll be a significant amount of information as we get to the end of July that will provide more information about financial assessments, updated reports from the consultants that have been commissioned across various work streams. So it's not just the disaggregation of costs and social care and which model is supposedly the best based on the testing that's being done by the consultants. So there's a huge amount of work to come forward. So we are pleased that it's on track, but we're all keen to see that information towards the end of the month so that we can begin sharing that more widely and be able to comment on that in more detail. And then going back to what Mr Wilkinson said about the 5 unitary authority model consultation, the actual latest, just hot off the press, is there's now over 3,000 responses to that consultation. And what's really good is in the tally of which councils are promoting that and seeing responses, Maldon as a district, we are seeing one of the highest number of responses to that consultation. So it's good to see that happening, and that will continue towards to the end of July, 25th of July. And then what tends to interest people most is how those models look in terms of the split and the number of population that the unitary councils will serve. So this is just a reminder of the 5 council proposal. And then in your slide pack, it also shows you the 3 councils that Essex County Council have just announced that they will be leading on, and you can see the size of populations there as well. And in terms of next steps, officers are working very hard to help the lead authority, the senior responsible organisation, which is Southend, to continue to finish drafting the contents, to pull it all together and make sure that it sets out a strong case, evidenced by the shared evidence base that all of the proposals are using. And then we'll work through our member working groups up until the September Council when we ask for ratification. And of course, it's subject to change. So between now and then, there'll be the shadow councils formed, there'll be elections to those shadow authorities, and then the unitary councils will go live in 2028. But just so that you can see, that is the current member engagement calendar. If at any point we get some information come to us that is detailed enough to share and is worth a discussion, these dates may change, but at the moment the all-member briefing is set for the 6th of August, and that'll be an opportunity to see the business case and to be able to comment on that, and we'll feed that back as part of the process. And that's the end of the slides.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Button. So that's the update that we've requested. Has anybody got any points they'd like to raise quickly? Councillor Morgan?
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Can the leader and the chief executive please clarify for me? Have been given the impression that they have been sort of excluded from the Essex County Council 3.2 group, whereas the information that I have is that no such exclusion exists. Can the actual situation regarding attendance at both those groups be clarified, please?
Yep. Mr Wilkinson.
Do you want me to start? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Morgan. I think as of now, there's more inclusion there. I think everybody, or certainly we've had an invite to those meetings, but from the outset, we weren't invited to those. So I think this is where the miscommunication of whether we're included or we're not. Initially, we weren't. I speak for we as an MDC, but it was sort of the authorities that weren't really in support of the the county council's model. The county council took the view that they just wanted to have a meeting with like-minded authorities. I think after a bit of challenge from leaders around Essex, this then opened up, and Councillor Bentley then put the offer out to all councils. So we have now been invited to these, and for which we attended one on Monday. I don't know whether the leader wants to add.
So yeah, I just corroborate what Mr. Wilkin has said. When we had the formation of the 9 authorities that want 5, and then the authorities that wanted 3, yeah, the group of 5 was open all the time to invited everybody across Essex to those meetings. And then it transpired a couple of weeks ago when we were having a Essex and Leaders Chief Execs meeting online, that there was a meeting the next day, and the leaders and councils in the 9 who were not part of the 3 were not invited to that meeting. Subsequently, we have been invited to that meeting, and we attended on Monday, and Essex have now scheduled 2 weekly meetings to go through things, and yeah, myself and Mr. Wilkinson will be attending as much of those as we can, as well as the attending the 5 unitary model meetings as well. And the next one of those is next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Councillor Stamp?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'd hate anything being misleading, because originally it said we weren't invited, then we were invited, then we were invited last week, and then we weren't invited last week. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, you maybe was excluded from one meeting, possibly, I don't know, I haven't challenged this. We've got full council on Tuesday at Essex County Council. So I really err on the side of caution to be saying that this council has been excluded from anything from the outset, which is what Councillor Morgan actually raised. The Chief Exec turned around and said from the beginning you were, even though I don't think you were, because you attended meetings which you fed back on originally to see our group leaders meetings. So I do think we need to make sure that, because this is being watched and it's being minuted, and I do think we need clarity, because what we're actually possibly doing, I feel, is putting barriers up. And I've said all along, let's make sure we work together with everybody rather than having any misinterpretation or whatever. And and by all means, you can say to me, Wendy, you're not in the room. But when it's been raised to me, I've gone straight back to county and challenged it, so we make sure as a district council we are being represented, and we are being represented fairly, because we don't want to be making enemies. We need to be working together, and we need all our officers on side to make sure that we can go through this local government reorganisation. So I just want to be cautious, because it is nice to be nice, and we do need to work together on this.
Thank you. Noted. Thank you very much. Very briefly, please.
So I can explain what happened. We attended a Teams meeting of Chief Executives and Essex leaders, and at that meeting, I think someone from Essex said, well, the meeting that's happening tomorrow, and I immediately went on and said, what meeting is happening tomorrow, because none of us have received an invite. And at that particular point, Essex did say, actually, you haven't received an invite because it's just purely for those that are supporting the 3 model. Subsequently, that has now changed, and everybody is invited to everything. So that's where we are at the moment. And if we don't cooperate, if we don't work together, and we are seen to be divisive, then the MHCLG will be on us. And we have neutrality, which is working with us to ensure that we are all working together. And that is the case now, that we are all working together. And therefore, as I said in my speech, I will be working with the leaders and chief execs, along with Mr. Wilkinson, on the 3 model that we would be joining, as well as the 5 model that we might be joining. Because that's important for us to do, to ensure that we are being represented, and we're and again, yeah, because 3.2 has only just been announced in the last week by Essex as their preference. Yeah, we haven't been talking as much to Tendring, Colchester and Braintree, because they've been having their own meetings without us. So now we are going to be working with them on those things.
Good. Excellent. Councillor Fittick, short one.
Just a general question, really. I mean, obviously we're seeing all sorts of numbers being pushed around onto us by various parties. But just to understand the process, I mean, obviously the Pricewaterhouse are doing a modelling based upon a structure suggested by the county councils. It could well be that the structure suggested by the district councils as a group is significantly different to the Essex County Council knowledge. So, really speaking, we won't know what the best result is until we get the structures suggested by the district councils, as I'm understanding it, as unitaries, and then compare it to the Essex County Council proposal of what they think structure should be. So is that basically where we are?
Councillor Fittick, that's absolutely right, and that's the work that Grant Thornton are doing. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for the update. If it's short, because this is an update, this is not a debatable item. So.
Yeah, I sort of agree with what Councillor Fittick says, but I think it's really, really important that this information is shared as soon as we have it. I mean, we're paying Grant Thornton a huge amount of money. I think it would be good. Chairman, just on a point of clarity, I'm not sure why this is urgent business other than the fact that we forgot to include it on the agenda, because if you look at page 35, minute 11, and last meeting, it said quite clearly on there, Chairman, that this was going to be an update. And I think it means that because this has come forward as an urgent item, we've not had the papers in a timely manner. So, Chairman, I'm sure that moving forward, you'll make sure that this is an agenda item. Chairman, I do wonder whether or not it should be a report so that we can start to understand the impact on the authority.
I think the points noted, and I think we've got the devolution working group as well, so we can do some of the debate in that, but noted, Councillor Fluker. Thank you. Thank you, members. We now move on to point 16, which is the exclusion of the public and press. And this, the Chairman to move that the Council resolves that under Section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1, 2 and 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act, and this satisfies the public interest test. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morgan seconded. Members, is that agreed? Agreed, members, thank you. Tara can confirm when the